somebody who leaves Islam
Yeah.
and makes it public
Yes.
that they have left Islam
Yes.
and explains to the public
Yeah.
that they have left Islam and why
Yeah.
they have left Islam,
Yeah.
is this person to be put to death?
Socially profiled when he
So why are you saying according to Islam? You should say according to my understanding of Islam, which
I'm asking you a question. Can I ask you a question about the Islamic rulings?
Yes, sir. You can
I
ask
ask you a question?
the educator the question. Yes.
You are an idiot. Can I ask you a question about the Islamic rulings
Go ahead,
according
go
to my understanding? You don't even have the brain to think about this.
Go ahead,
I'm
go
asking
ahead,
you
go
a
ahead,
question
Ask
about
me.
your Islamic rulings.
Ask
According to the Islamic jurisdiction, according to Islam, according to the Islamic
Jurisprudence.
whatever, according to it's my third language. While you spend time going into answer the question, according to Islam, somebody who leaves Islam, i.e., me or other people, somebody who leaves Islam and makes it public that they have left Islam and explains to the public that they have left Islam and why they have left Islam, is this person to be put to death under Islam?
Well, I've written a book on this. It's actually called
Just answer the question. You don't need to write a book about it.
Well, I'm just want to put to you that I've written a book on this, which is actually my dissertation for one of my degrees, which I got a distinction in, and which was peer reviewed by two liberal people by my ad, and given a distinction. So I think this will be a professional answer here, not like yours. My answer is this: it really depends on the situation. I'm not saying to you that Islam, the only ruling in Islam, is that the person who is a public apostate is to be put to death. In fact, in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had a negotiation with Suhail ibn Amr, in that treaty, there was a clear parenthesis put in place, or a clause, a stipulation put in place, whereby apostates would be actually redirected or strategically relocated. For that reason, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah and many of the scholars, in fact, from my reading, the majority of scholars say, it's possible that a public apostate, and listen carefully, I'm answering your question directly, a public apostate, just like yourself, not just within the Western world, but within an Islamic state, is not actually put to death and is strategically located to another country, for example, a safe haven. And that is not despite the Islamic law, that is because of it. And the reason and the evidence of that is the Hadith in Bukhari, which is as you know, the most authoritative Hadith book, which stipulates this point. On the kitab of the hadith of Suhail ibn Amr. So in other words, what I actually recommend in my book, which is ironic, I say that in this day and age, my position is not that apostates, even in Muslim countries, this is my position, even in Muslim countries which claim to rule by Islamic law, I proposed in the book, I proposed that it would be within the maslahah, the common interest of the Muslim people, to make peace treaties, the like of which was seen by the Prophet Muhammad himself, with non-Muslim countries, such that apostates in certain Muslim countries are not to be put to death, and in fact are strategically located to other non-Muslim countries in a way to protect their life. And in fact, if you go against such treaty, according to the scholars that I've mentioned, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, al-Mirdawi, and others, who actually mentioned this very explicitly in their jurisprudential tracts, if you go against this, then that would be something which is seen as immoral because it goes against the contractual agreements. It says in Surah Al-Ma'idah chapter 5 verse 1, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. Oh, you have believed, be faithful to your contracts. And that includes contracts with disbelieving nations. It includes contracts with non-Muslim nations and so on and so on. So my position actually is this. If there is a country now that wants to rule by Islamic law, I do not think it within the common interest of that particular country to exercise that particular law of apostasy. I think it is within the full scope of the jurisprudential Islamic allowance, as well as the law, for that Muslim country to make a peace treaty with other non-Muslim countries such that there will be a strategic relocation. And that is my position on the matter. Yes, of course, in history, there have been times where there have been public apostasies. But in the book that I've written, and the capital punishment employed. But that's not the position that I think is most beneficial for the world today. And I think, actually, my historical analysis, when I did a historical analysis, I looked at America, and I looked at Turkey, which are countries.
Well, you are contradicting with the historical consensus in Islamic jurisprudence.
Well, actually, I've just mentioned to you. No, you're saying I'm contradicting it. I'm giving you evidence from
it
a
is very clear that
consensus
you are
is when there's no
contradicting.
difference of opinion. I've just told you Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah.
That's not what consensus
Zad
means.
al-Ma'ad, sorry. He
The
mentioned
majority
the
consensus
allowance
is
for
that
this. How can it
is
be a
that
consensus?
the majority consensus is that apostates are to be put to death, which is
No, you're forcing your worldview on us. Look,
I am forcing. There are
you're
several countries. There are
forcing
several
us.
countries in the world today that have
Look,
this.
I'm not saying
According
that.
to you,
Listen. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm telling you
if
what you don't want to hear, maybe. But I'm telling you it's possible.
no,
Yes,
you are
it's
being dishonest
conceivable.
because you came here before
Listen.
and you excused this.
As you know, I'm not shy to say something outrageous. I'm a wild character. If I want to, I'll say something outrageous.
I think
I
you
have
are
no problem.
quietly
I'm telling
dishonest.
you what it is that I've looked at from the books that I've read and the scholars that I've spoken to. All of them agree with me. Yes, that actually it's completely conceivable and totally allowable within a Muslim nation that a Muslim nation does a peace treaty with a non-Muslim nation, and the public apostates that come out and say, we are public apostates, we are against the Prophet Muhammad, we are against just like you, and even, so on and so forth. Maybe not just like you, actually, but someone who does all that stuff, and then they can be. What will happen to you? Well, it depends on what you want to do. If you are a public apostate and just go ahead.
If I did exactly what I'm doing right now in the ideal Islamic country, what would happen to me?
Well, look, if you did what you're doing right now in an ideal Islamic country, I'm sure there will be vigilantes, okay, that will take the law into their own hands. There's a difference between what the civilians do, yes, and what the law says. In an ideal Islamic country,
vigilantes would probably kill me.
It's like asking me if I, do you know this? There was a film called Die Hard 3. I used to watch films when I was younger. Die Hard with a Vengeance, and then Bruce Willis, he came with this postage saying, "I hate niggers." Sorry to say the word, but he said, "I hate niggers," and he went to Harlem. You know Harlem, and then these guys saw him and they were going to kill him. I'm not going to tell you that if you are living in a Muslim majority place and you are ripping up the Quran in Pakistan or some place, that you're going to be fine. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to lie.
I'm not talking about ripping up the Quran.
I'm talking to you about laws. I'm talking to you about what's conceivable.
That was my question. What about the law?
Yeah, the law. What I'm saying to you is, I've just told you what the law is. Public.
No, you said.
Yeah. What I said from the law perspective is it's totally conceivable, as I've just mentioned, right? And do you know what I've said is the book that I've written, which is called a public. Sorry, I can't remember. It's a treatise. I said it's called critiques of the public, the liberal critiques to Ridda. That's the name of the book. I forgot the name of the book. It's called the liberal critiques to Ridda. Okay, and this book, what I actually show historically is this, because I'm sure you're aware, you're a Turkish-speaking person. You can actually access now online the majority of Ottoman archives, and a lot of it will be in Ottoman language. So it's actually not even in Arabic, but it's kind of Arabic script, but it's Ottoman Turkish, right? So we had a translator who looked at from the period of, say, Bayezid the second, which is about 1517, all the way up to when the end of the Ottoman Empire. We looked at that, and we also looked at America. And what we found was quite intriguing, actually, because what we found is that there were some acts in America, for example, burning of flags, and so on and so forth, which were prosecuted by death. And I show you the case studies in the book. And so this was a symbolic act. It wasn't a military act. It was seen as treacherous and treasonous. And in the same way, there were some instances like that in the Ottoman Empire. What I found quite interesting, though, was that the Ottoman judges were way more reluctant to exercise apostasy laws. In terms of the primary source materials that is referenced in the book, and you can check it out.
You're beating around the bush so much right now.
You have access to
maybe
directly. So you can check out, actually on an implementation level, how much this was actually implemented. By the way, I'm not trying to say, and I want to make this very clear, I'm not trying to say that there is no such thing as the capital punishment in Islam for non-allegiance to the state, which is like ridda. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that there is maneuverability within the law, the scope of the law. So such that a hakim, if you're like a ruler, there's a scope of maneuverability there. And what I'm saying is, and this is not a reform position, it's not a liberal position, this is within the traditionalist discourse. And I think people like you should actually listen to people like me, because if I get my way, right, if I had my recommendation in place, then in fact the world would be, in your world, a safer place, in your understanding. So why are you trying to force me?
Do you condemn the killing of apostates?
Force me to want to kill you people like you? I don't want to
because
kill
I don't believe you.
Look, you don't have to believe me. I've given you evidence.
Do you condemn the killing of apostates? Do you condemn it?
Yeah, because if you kill apostates now, there is no law and order.
So
There's no law and order on that. There's absolutely condemn it. I would never
condemn capital punishment for apostasy.
I absolutely condemn.
Do you condemn your friend Ali Dawa telling me that I should be punished with death?
Absolutely condemn the killing of apostates, because that is completely against law and order. Apostates, listen, I say to you something. You know, there's a hadith, and we're talking about primary source materials now. Hudayfa bin Yaman, he's a Sahabi. He had a list of individuals who, for all intents and purposes, they were munafiqeen. They were people who had lost their faith. And in the list of all of those individuals, including Abdullah ibn Salul and others, those individuals, none of them were killed. Why? Even though all of them were not sympathetic to Muhammad. In fact, they went against him. None of them. Why were they not killed? The reason why they were not killed is because I put to you, and this is what As-Sarakhsi says, the Hanafi jurist, and this is before liberalism was even invented. He wrote this. It's nothing to do with you changing your faith. Islam and Allah is not afraid of you changing your faith. You can change your faith all you like. We don't care, because Allah will judge on the day of judgment. We believe those who change their faith and become apostates, they will be in the hellfire and burning and all that stuff. We believe in eternal damnation. I mean, that's even worse than for us. It's an eschatological reality. We say that this is nothing to do with you changing your faith. It's all to do, yes, with the allegiance or non-allegiance to a state. And if your bay'ah or the allegiance is premised on a theological reality, which is, yes.
And you believe that the state should be Islamic and everybody should be forced to pledge allegiance to the state, don't you?
No, I don't think that is any. Look, if it's a Muslim majority country, absolutely. But if it's a
absolutely.
Yeah, if it's a Muslim
so what is the difference then?
No,
you believe that an Islamic state should be established?
I think if it's a Muslim majority country, then there's a democratic impetus for even on democratic worldview, for you to say, well, the majority are Muslim. If they want Islam, then surely on democratic principles, outsiders should have nothing to do with that.
But so everything that you have said was just a complete waste of time, because you believe that an Islamic state,
that's why.
Because you believe that an Islamic state, an Islamic government should be established if the majority is Muslim. Including,
but the Islamic government shouldn't.
You, for example, want to spread Islam to the entire UK. So if the majority of the entire UK was Muslim, you would want everybody to adhere to an Islamic state, and this Islamic state should require.
I don't want an Islamic state in Britain. I'm not asking for an Islamic state in Britain.
If I, for example, left Islam in that Islamic state and openly spoke about it and openly spoke against this religion, then I would be put to death. And you would.
No, I'm not saying you're put to death. I'm not saying you're put to death on
this guy. Like, you're making it seem like we want to kill you. No one wants to kill you. Like no one wants to kill you.
We're not afraid of conversion.
You cannot.
You are a Christian or an atheist. That's your decision. I swear to God, I don't care. I swear.
Do you condemn
about that? What I'm saying,
you are aware that the majority of your fellow.
I believe that you will, for that reason, you'll be eternally damned in the hellfire.
You are aware that the majority of your fellow Islamic scholars and apologists agree that apostates who make their apostasy open should be put to death, including your friends Ali Dawa, including Daniel Hikik, including many others. They all agree on this. Do you think they are wrong and you condemn them for that?
Well, here's my belief. I believe that what they're saying is they're mentioning a classical opinion in the books of fiqh or jurisprudence.
They're saying it should happen. They're not mentioning.
Well, if they're saying it should happen, my view is that if we actually have an Islamic state, and this is what I recommended in my book, it's in print. Yeah, I'm saying that if there is an Islamic state, I believe that Islamic state should have a peace treaty with a non-Islamic state, such that public apostates, don't need to be killed or are not killed at all. There's no harm done to them, and there's strategic relocation. And that is not despite the aqwal of the Prophet. It is because of the sayings of the Prophet. And the evidence of that is the fact that the Prophet ﷺ in Hudaybiyah, he actually had a peace treaty to that effect.
So is that without exception for all apostates?
Yes, all apostates will be.
You think no apostate should be killed? They should all be relocated to different countries.
Absolutely, that's my view. I don't think.
I appreciate that.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
I think that if you have a Muslim apostate, public apostates, because if you're doing things privately, there's no harm on you. But there's considerable harm, as you know, on public apostates who apostatize in Muslim majority places. So those individuals should be relocated, in my view, to other non-Muslim countries. And that is not despite what the Prophet said. It's because of what he allowed in the final peace treaty that he concluded with Suhail ibn Amr. And in fact, Ibn al-Qayyim in his discussion of this, and other scholars, I'm just mentioning Ibn al-Qayyim because it comes to mind. He says it's not abrogated. This is an unabrogated law. So it's if this peace treaty is in place, my view is that actually that should be what happens. Now, I've said this to you times.
I would like to reiterate this for the public, because I think this is very great news, because many other people, especially many of those who oppose Islam, would like to hear this in very short sentences. So Mohammed Hijab here agrees that Mohammed Hijab opposes the general ruling of the killing of apostates, public and private apostates, and he agrees that if in an Islamic state, in an Islamic country, which a majority Muslim country should be turned into, then apostates should not be killed, but they should be forcibly relocated to other countries, which is still by definition genocide, but at least it is not death. So that is what you are agreeing with.
Genocide.
Well, this is by definition genocide.
It's not genocide. No, it's not genocide.
It is cultural genocide.
No. Stop trying to use words that you don't know what the definitions of them are.
It is by definition cultural genocide.
Let me tell you, can I just articulate it? Can I correct your articulation?
Sure.
Mohammed Hijab believes that in an ideal Islamic state in the 21st century, that if there is a Muslim country, Muslim majority country that claims to rule by Islamic law, that such Muslim Islamic country should make a peace treaty or a contract with other non-Muslim countries, such that if public apostates become apparent in the public sphere, that such public apostates are relocated. And he is basing this on the final hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, where he, the Prophet, allowed such thing to happen with Suhail ibn Amr, and where the scholars of Islam, and in fact you could even argue the majority of scholars, allow such thing. Mohammed Hijab is not saying it's not conceivable within an Islamic state, or it's not understood classically that there was such a thing, in the 1,400 years of Islamic history as public apostasy, punishments. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's a maneuverability within the scope of jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence, which allows Muslims to actually make this a kind of contract. And I think that if Muslim majority countries make such contracts, that will decrease the ability of the non-Muslim enemy, to be able to attack Islam and its peoples on the pretense of human rights. And I think...
Do you think it is not conceivable that there should be such a thing?
I don't understand the question. Sorry, could you repeat that?
You said you're not saying that it is not conceivable that there was such a thing in the history and in the past, the killing of apostates. Do you also say that it is not conceivable that there should be such a thing in our time or in the future? Do you think it is wrong, inconceivable, impossible?
I say that Muslim.
No, I know what you think. I know what you suggest. But do you think it is absolutely wrong and inconceivable that apostates, no matter what kind of apostates they are, should be executed?
I haven't used the word inconceivable, because inconceivable means not possible, right? Sorry, I'm just going to put this on plain mode. It means not possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not making an argument from conceivability. This is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm making a policy recommendation for Muslim majority countries, and I've made that.
It's just a recommendation.
No, it's a recommendation based on the actions of the Prophet.
But that's all it is. So you would still, in the end, in the end,
the actions of the Prophet.
Looking at the Islamic dawah scene, for example, the consensus is that the right thing to do is to put public apostates to death. You are, but
I'm not saying that. So therefore,
that is not part of the point. My point is, majority of people, for example, come together and think that the appropriate punishment for apostasy, public apostasy, would be death. So if people now come together and establish such a state, and they said this is the ruling that we should apply. Sorry, Mohammed Hijab, your suggestion is very nice, but we cannot do that because we agree to this. Yeah. Do you think that is okay?
I've had conversations with policy officials in countries like Malaysia. And I've actually had the chance to influence their spokespeople, and I've given them these kinds of recommendations. Because as you know, Brunei is a country that is nearby, and they look at that as an example. Because we're talking about maslaha and mafsada. Really, we're talking about what is in the common interest and what's not in the common interest. And this is something which many people like yourself, and on the other hand as well, Muslims, they don't understand. And I'm trying to educate everyone here. That actually Brunei, when they attempted to put a full-fledged hudud laws. What happened to them as a country? They were under attack from all spheres, and they're too small to defend themselves. So how can they be a Muslim country? How can they do as much as they can do within the scope of the international, the waqā, or the international environment, whilst at the same time being faithful to their Islamic position? I'm giving them a very reasonable and practical solution. I'm giving people countries like Brunei. What would you do with countries like Brunei when you have apostates in Brunei? If they're trying to kill, imagine trying to kill a public apostate in Brunei. I mean, just think about that for a second. What do you think America would do? I think they would threaten invasion. I believe that.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. For that reason, I don't think that it's within anybody's interest. And what I'm saying is that the fiqh, look, this is what I want people to understand. Islamic jurisprudence is wide. Okay, it's not black and white. It really is not black and white. I'm a traditionalist. You know that I'm a traditionalist. I'm not scared to tell you the most severe view of everything. But what I'm saying is Ibn al-Qayyim was Ibn Taymiyyah's student. I mean, Ibn Taymiyyah was the traditionalist, if you like. I'm a traditionalist. I'm telling you that this is fully in line. I want to confirm that what I'm saying is fully in line.
Socially profiled when he